some things we should have in the bill. But I say to Congress, I will never sign another bill like this again. I'm not going to do it again. It's only hours old.
President Trump signed a $1.3 trillion spending bill Friday, but he made clear he was not happy about it. In fact, he threatened to veto it, telling his Twitter followers that he saw the lack of border wall funding as a deal breaker. He walked back the threat a few hours later and ultimately signed the bill. The president said the bill's increased defense spending outweighed his other concerns.
In this case, it became so big because we need to take care of our military. And because the Democrats, who don't believe in that, added things that they wanted in order to get their votes. We have to get rid of the filibuster rule. We have to get rid of the filibuster rule and go to 51 votes in the Senate if we're going to have really sustained, continued success.
Hunter Walker is in Washington. He is the White House correspondent for Yahoo News. Hunter, first we're going to start with a little bit of breaking news. Former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe published an opinion piece Friday night in the Washington Post. That's almost exactly a week after he was fired for lack of candor. And here's what he wrote, quote, "At worst, I was not clear in my responses, and because of what was going on around me, may well have been confused and distracted, and for that I take full responsibility." He also said that he did not knowingly mislead or lie to investigators. He said his lack of candor under no circumstances could it ever serve as the basis for the very public and extended humiliation of my family and me that the administration and the president personally have engaged in over the past year. So what is your reaction to this?
Well, the former deputy director said he had done nothing wrong. And while that might be debatable, I think the general consensus is that there was an unusual cruelness that accompanied his firing, which, as your viewers probably know, came one day before he was due to be able to retire. And also it came with a lot of public statements from President Trump. What he revealed in this column was that he learned about it from TV. So there was a unique level of humiliation that came with this for a long-serving civil servant. What really struck me was that he aired out all those details. And I think as we see President Trump have this sort of ongoing war with the intelligence community, he's really making a lot of enemies there. They were not happy with how McCabe, who was quite well liked, was treated. And, as he just showed, they have the ability to leak details. They also have the ability to investigate the president. And I think he's repeatedly been warned from former intelligence community members, from experts, that it's just not a good enemy to have. And this is just a real ratcheting up and an indication of just how bad things have gotten.
Yeah, no question. McCabe said essentially he woke up to find the president of the United States celebrating my punishment is the way he called it. But switching to the day's big news today as well, President Trump calling again for the end to the Senate filibuster, which Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has rejected in the past. So what is the state of his relationship with Republican leaders in Congress who aren't supporting him on some of the things he really wants?
Well, I think one of the most interesting things about this bill was that we saw the White House, particularly the budget director, Mick Mulvaney, indicate that he would sign the bill with no problem. And then he threatened a veto, which would have shut down the government today. So I think in Congress, on both sides of the aisle, you have members who are just not sure where the president stands from one moment to the next. And that's definitely not good for the relationship. He also issues a lot of contradictory messages. I mean, we see him, complain about spending levels, but we also see him want money for the wall, want increases for the military, want massive, massive infrastructure spending. So the messages are muddied, and that's definitely going to yield tensions. In addition to asking for eliminating the filibuster rule, he called for having a line item veto on any future spending bills, which currently would be unconstitutional. It would require an amendment. And so I think what we're seeing from the president is, these bills, this bill was crafted as a compromise. And that's really the only way things can get done now. When you hear him saying, I want to get rid of the filibuster, I want an unconstitutional line item, you're seeing a guy who's not comfortable with compromise and wants to basically rule by himself. And I think you will see Congress push back against that.
Right. This is asking Congress to basically give him the line item veto. Well, let's switch topics a little bit. This is how you framed the hiring of John Bolton as National Security Advisor. You said, quote, Trump might simply be bringing on an aggressive voice to play bad cop to his good cop with America's rivals. So explain what that means.
Mm-hmm. Well, that came from my conversations with a source familiar with the president's thinking. And, one thing that was in my story that the White House subsequently confirmed is that part of why the president brought on John Bolton was because he wanted his team in place for the coming talks with North Korea. And as of now, it does look like he and Kim Jong-un are set to meet sometime around May. And, what was so remarkable about John Bolton's appointment for many national security watchers is that this is about the most hawkish voice in foreign policy. He's called for, lopping off floors of the UN building, bombing Iran, suggested perhaps we should do a preemptive strike against North Korea. So a lot of people were alarmed with this, and a lot of people felt it was at odds with President Trump, who's cast himself as a deal maker and also, said he was against, especially during the campaign, foreign wars, something John Bolton has relentlessly advocated for, including, cheering the Iraq war long after that fell out of fashion. But the source that I spoke to said, look, the president doesn't agree with John Bolton on anything, but he's enjoyed his appearances on Fox News. John Bolton was an analyst there, and he likes his style and thinks it would be great to have a bad cop as he enters these talks with our rivals.
Interesting to see also how that dynamic plays out with the new Secretary of State, current CIA Director Mike Pompeo. Hunter Walker, thank you.
Thank you.
Investigators searched the London headquarters of